All right, welcome to the OpenJ9 community call for October 23rd. As always, we start off the call by asking people to add their name and company affiliation to the minutes. And we ask if anybody has any topics of discussion that are interest to end users. And if not, I think Sue's ready to give us an update on how we're going to handle docs in the future. So I can stop sharing. I'll stop sharing and you can take over.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Great, okay. Let's get this started. So everyone on this call knows who I am, but as this is being recorded, I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm Sue Chaplain, I'm a content developer, and I've been working with the project since it arrived at the Eclipse Foundation. I helped create the website initially and the user documentation, and I have been working with all the OpenJ9 releases since 2 years ago now, I guess. Nice, just have something on my screen which I need to close. There we go. Okay. So I wanted to talk today about contributing to the OpenJ9 user documentation. So most people will be aware this is it. It's a site hosted on the Eclipse infrastructure, and it has the latest release of the OpenJ9 documentation. It covers the features in OpenJ9, at least most of them, and command line options and things like that, things you might want to set for performance tuning or troubleshooting and such like. And that has been there and it's been growing since the project started a couple of years ago. Now, we do have some dedicated resources for the project, which we use to update and maintain that user doc. And there are currently, around 200 topics, with some of those topics having as many as 6,000 or 7,000 words. So quite a large collection of documentation. And as the project grows, obviously the documentation grows as well. And we need to find a way of growing the number of contributors to the documentation too. For the last couple of releases, 16 and 17, the dedicated resources that we've got, we've kind of struggled to ensure that the docs were complete on time and keep pace with the ever-growing OpenJ9 code base. So we really need help. So as a contributor, if you're working on the OpenJ9 source, you are probably the best person to help with the documentation. If you're developing a feature, you have the right technical insight into your contribution, you know why a user wants to use your particular feature, and of course, if it isn't documented well, it's a bit of a waste because people won't be trying it out. So we believe that the developers contributing to OpenJ9 are the best people to start writing about the features that are going into the product. So where do we start? So if we imagine as an OpenJ9 contributor, you've read the contributing guidelines at OpenJ9. There's a number of steps to follow before you submit your contribution. And the fourth one here talks about features that require an external change to the user docs. So we have a little process here, which has been here all along, where you add a label to your issue. So that we're aware that there's documentation required, and you open the issue at the GitHub user documentation repository. So if we just go and take a look now at the issue. Now, here's the repository where all the source for the user documentation is kept. And you create a new issue in the normal way, and we have some templates. Now, this bottom template here is the one that would be used for new features. We also have others for bugs or things you think might be improvements to the doc. So you simply visit repo, create an issue, select that template. This is the template itself, so you complete it. It's got some titles to help you explain exactly what it is that's changing, you know, what release target you're expecting it to be in, what versions of the JDK it will apply to, any platform uniqueness, and then for things like command line options, the different things that you would need to describe in order for a user to be able to use that documentation. So this has been in place for some time. What we're now suggesting is that when you create one of these, if you're the person that's written that feature, assign yourself to this documentation task. Okay, so the first thing to do when contributing to the OpenJ9 user documentation is to come and have a look at the contributing guidelines that we have in the OpenJ9 docs repository. Now, they're fairly extensive, gives you lots of hints and tips about what to write, how to write it, where the topics should go. What we're proposing to do is when the issue is created at the OpenJ9 docs repository, the people who are currently the dedicated resource for the user docs will provide some hints and tips about how you should go about making those changes. So if you needed to create a new topic, which files you would need to touch in order to achieve that most easily. And in that way, we hope that we can provide sort of fast and easy guidance for people. And of course, if anyone has any questions and they're not quite sure what to do, then the doc team are there to help with that as well, and we can provide that guidance. So once you've made your changes to the user docs, create a pull request. A reviewer from the docs team will be assigned to that so that we can then go and stage the changes for review. This is the staging site here. And the pull request number can be staged independently, so you can have a complete view of the documentation just for your change. We'll go backwards and forwards until we're sure that the changes are absolutely what we need for the docs, and then we'll simply approve and merge the changes. So hopefully that process is all quite simple. So lastly, just a few top tips. As soon as you know external docs are required for your feature, then please do create an issue straight away. Work with us to establish what's needed. You know, if it's a very complex piece of documentation that needs doing, we can help with it. Just the earlier we find out about that, the better. Otherwise, we can provide guidance for any straightforward updates, and people can just make their contribution. Read the guidelines, that avoids any rework, and don't wait until the last minute to start. Now, in an ideal situation, the issue or pull request for your code shouldn't be merged into the OpenJ9 repo until the doc updates are ready. And that way we can make sure that the user docs stays in line with the OpenJ9 changes. Otherwise, we'll be shipping releases without telling people how to use the product properly. So that's all I have to share in terms of doc contributions. Has anyone got any questions that I can answer or try and answer?
So I saw something fly by about creating an MK docs environment on your local machine.
Yeah, the contribution guidelines give you some guidance about how to set up a local build so that you can do that. But the staging environment, once you've created that pull request, that will build a full-blown version of the documentation as well. People who are whitelisted users or committers on the project, they can actually stage the changes themselves, or the doc team can stage the changes for other people.
And I assume this is effective immediately?
Yeah, we'd like to try and start this as of now. We're just starting the new release 0.18. And you know, let's try from now, and if those issues are raised as early as possible, then we can give as much guidance as people need whilst they're getting used to making those contributions themselves.
So sorry,
Simon. No, you carry on.
The staging part of the process, so you get an entire copy of the doc with just your changes in, you said, what triggers that and where does it go?
It's triggered from the pull request. It's a pipeline script that's set up. So you simply type Jenkins doc stage in the comment box, and on that staging server, the URL I showed, we can share these slides afterwards. There's a directory for every pull request number that has a complete set of the doc in it. I didn't mention the pipeline script because you have to be a whitelisted user in order to run that yourself. So it's possibly easier as soon as we see a pull request, the doc team can just do that stage straight away. So it doesn't matter whether you're a committer or a whitelisted user, it will work. What I was going to say is the time that we will recover from doing less work on the features, we will spend improving other areas of the documentation. There are still some parts, particularly shed classes, where there's a lot more content that could be written to help users use those features. And we'll be able to focus on that. At the moment, those kind of tasks are moving from one release to the next because we're too busy doing the feature work, and that's because we have to spend time understanding what's been done in order to write the content. I think the developers are best placed. They know what they've done, they know why your user would want to use it, and therefore they're perfectly placed to do that contribution themselves. Any other questions? Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen. Sorry, is that another one?
Not a question, but once the slides are available and we can do some video editing on this recording, and then maybe we could post this on Slack, post the slides and the video on Slack for everybody to take a look, because there's not a lot of developers attending this call.
Sure, I'll make those available to you, Peter. Okay, thank you.
Okay, back to the agenda. Let's see, do we have anything scheduled? Something about a website update. Is that still something that's going to happen, Sue? A talk about website updates?
I should at some point give some status on where we've got to. We need to encourage some contributions to move that work forward as well. You'll need to give me a couple of weeks though, so that I have a chance to put something together.
Okay, so two weeks, like November 6th?
Yeah, that should be fine.
That's good, thank you. So I've already taken a look at the end user issues and made sure they're all assigned into the next milestone. I could bring up the list if anybody's interested, but series of user problems, performance issues, crashes, whatnot, need to be investigated. Do we have any update on the download Docker Hub stats?
I don't know if Andrew updated them, and he's not here today, so can't say one way or the other.
Okay, I'll skip over that. So we did manage to ship 0.17, Java 8, Java 11, Java 13. I assume all platforms. I didn't actually check, but hopefully they're all out there. Does anybody know differently?
No.
Great. And our next release is in January, 0.18.
So there was a bit of trouble, and I'm not even sure it's resolved yet, around the uploading of the builds as Linux distribution packages. But the Adopt OpenJDK package experts were looking into that last time I looked yesterday. So the package names as they appear on the Linux repositories did not carry the OpenJ9 0.17 part, so it was confusing as to which was that and which was hotspot. I believe it's being resolved.
Okay, sounds good. Let's see. An adopt update. Shelley, do you have anything for that?
Nothing too new. I guess there's the update to the JMC website, so the mission control stuff being served out of the adopt project now. I'll update these minutes in a second, I guess. We met with some folks, interested parties who wanted additional Docker images available from Adopt's official site. So to help aid some of that movement, we'll be enabling testing on Alpine and UBI images. So we're going, at the moment, the testing for the current images isn't triggered in the right way. We trigger it nightly off of our main pipelines, but since the Docker images aren't tied into the main pipelines, we'll shift and trigger off of the publishing of images to the unofficial Docker Hub repo. Once the testing on the unofficial images is completed, we'll have information on whether they should be pushed to the official repo. So that's happening over the next couple of weeks, I guess. See how that goes. We have to extend the framework a bit, so it'll take a few days. No movement on the Azure demo. That was some of the Microsoft folks showing and offering up a way to have infinite number of machines on the fly, but it's buried inside a Azure cloud environment. So it's not, we can't really consume it as directly as is. There's some discussion and work that would need to be done if we want to continue to be able to run stuff in Jenkins on current machines and blend it with things running in an Azure cloud. And then there's also someone who will demo running in AWS to see if we can leverage these environments to be able to run our testing in a more, I guess, on more machines and in a way that is more efficient. So I guess I'll keep people updated here about that because it may affect some of the ways that people will look at the adopt results. But we're assuming whatever happens here will continue to support the views of the results through the TRSS tool. So whether or not it's a job driven by Jenkins or a job driven by an Azure server, which is not Jenkins, we should still have access to all of those results. And that's probably it. Probably too much detail.
For the minutes, you mentioned Alpine and one other type of Docker image, and I missed the second.
Yeah, the UBI images, the Red Hat. Those will be the focus because those are actually pure Docker images at the moment. So they're getting published to the unofficial Docker site, but there isn't actually tests enabled. There isn't a large set of tests enabled for those at the moment. So we need to expand our testing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next thing is move OpenJ9 to its own GitHub organization. I don't have any updates on that. And then we're into machines. I see Adam joined. Did you have any updates on machines, Adam?
The only thing I can think of is Joe started setting up one of the X machines and he's been testing it. So we might be seeing those added in the next week or two.
So I didn't catch it. Started what?
Setting up the new AX machines. So we got one going and he's testing it manually for now.
Excellent.
I think all the boot JDK 13 stuff is done now. So
we'll be able to turn on more testing for AIX.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that's all I had, unless there's questions.
Next thing is the website. Sue, did you have any updates now, or will we wait till November 6th? Okay, probably nothing now. Any other business? I think we already, not sure what this issue is. Oh, I see. Sue, are you still on?
I am, yes. I think I had my mute on just now. Apologies for that.
Okay,
Java doc, yes. That's something we are starting to look at. We had some ideas around what the hosting would be. What I need to understand is what we've got OpenJDK 8 versus OpenJDK 11. So I shall be coming to talk to Simon sometime in the next few days.
sounds good. And speaking of Java doc, Simon, it sounds like the Java 11 doc is pretty much ready to go.
Yeah, 11 and head. I need to put in a new PR for head, but that's done as well. 8's trickier. They changed it quite a bit between 8 and 9, so I'm going back over 8 to see if I can make it a bit more elegant.
Yeah, and I was trying to stub those classes, but that's not going very well either. I'm going to spend more time figuring out how to stub all the classes properly.
I've hold off on that because I think I'm discovering that the JavaDoc tool will ignore the stubbed out classes as not being valid Java and go on to the com.sun ones further down the source path. So it's behaving differently to it, how it behaves on 11, which is unfortunate.
Okay, great. Does anybody else have any other business? Okay, thanks everyone for attending. We'll get the recording edited soon, so we can have Sue's discussion of the doc changes. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.